Hey everybody, Josh Lupresto, VP of Sales Engineering here at Telarus, part of Season 2, Race to the Summit, a deep dive engineering review. I'm here today joined with special guest Yash Bajpai from Palo Alto, Senior Manager over Sales Engineering. Yash, thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you, Josh. My pleasure. By way of introductions, again, like Josh mentioned, I'm Yash Bajpai, and I've been with CloudGenix before the acquisition for 4 years. So, been with the company since the early days, and very happy to be here with you.
Awesome, good stuff. So let's go into your background a little bit before we get into Palo and Cloud. Talk to me about your background, kind of leading up to this, and then where we're at now in your role.
So, I have this background as a clue. Look, I'm a network engineer by profession. All my life, all I did was networking, and started at Cisco, did my time there, worked at Juniper, worked at a few VARs, and have my CCIEs, Juniper certifications. So, been a network engineer all my life, and when I joined CloudGenix 4 years ago, I always wondered, and I still wonder sometimes, why didn't I have SD-WAN when I had these large complex networks that I was troubleshooting and designing? It would have been so great. And I guess that's what we will talk about today.
Good stuff. So let's jump in. Let's talk about CloudGenix is a great partner of ours, right? You guys have done amazing things, and we've done some awesome deals together. And obviously the great news of Palo. So talk to me about a little bit about what happened over the last couple of years in CloudGenix and where we're at now, and what does that mean for partners with Palo?
So this has been a very, very interesting week. Let me tell you, maybe our agents and audience already know this. Gartner came out with their latest WAN Edge Magic Quadrant. Now, mind you, this is not SD-WAN Magic Quadrant. This is WAN Edge Magic Quadrant. We are very pleased and proud to announce that Palo Alto SD-WAN or CloudGenix SD-WAN is in the leader quadrant on the far right. So the industry analysts, everyone already understand the value that CloudGenix SD-WAN and the Prisma Access SASE brings on the table. And the combination is a winning combination. So this has been a great week. We also had last week we announced the world's first next gen SD-WAN. So we're going to do a lot of machine learning and AI as part of our SD-WAN offering as well in the coming time frame.
Good, awesome stuff. Good timing too. So our audience knows SD-WAN, right? We have been beating that drum on SD-WAN. It's been an amazing part of some of these digital transformation conversations, enabled us to layer on all sorts of other applications and anything customers want to do to move forward. But SASE, right? SASE, what does it mean, right? Help us understand that, how it plays into SD-WAN, and what does that mean, right, in the customer's mind?
So you gotta love the acronym, right? It's pronounced SASE, Secure Access Service Edge. And the way, let me take a step back, right? So SD-WAN in 2016 was really hot. 2014 is when the SD-WAN companies came to the market. 2015, 2016 is when Gartner coined the word SD-WAN. Now, SASE is all the buzz and all the rage. So the idea of SASE is, how do you take network security, which is traditionally been deployed in one of two ways? You have the idea of the network security deployed at the edge, at all the branches and all the locations, manufacturing locations, retail stores, bank branches, at all the edges. Or alternatively, you backhaul all the traffic, and now you have network security applied at the data center. Now, SASE takes the best of both the worlds, and it says, look, let me actually build these point of presence, whether it's managed by the vendor or it's in a cloud provider. And now you have security closest to the edge, not in the edge, managed by a provider, and it's offered as a SaaS. So it's security services offered as a SaaS service. And that's another way why the reason why it's called SASE. So it's like security as a SaaS service.
Beautiful. Okay. So let's talk about trends here. You get to see a lot of trends. Obviously, Gartner saw some great trends. So talk to me about trends that you see across verticals, and what interactions between partners and prospects I think might be accelerating some of the SD-WAN and some of the SASE adoption.
Yeah, look, I mean, we're talking in these unprecedented times. We have a health crisis across the world. I will touch upon that. I will say that is not the only trend I would want to focus on, but I cannot but not talk about it. So what I will say is that with this health crisis that we live in, we are all working from home. We're doing this from our homes right now. And the challenge the enterprise have now is with this changed user behavior, how do you ensure that you are still able to put your arms around your data, the intellectual property? How do you secure that traffic? That has greatly accelerated the SASE adoption. Now, SASE, and I'll break it down a bit. You can think of SASE as two different things. There is the remote access VPNs, the user VPNs, which has been greatly accelerated by the health crisis that we live in. And then there is also branch to branch, site to site VPNs that is where SD-WAN comes in. Because if you think about it, when you have SASE, and the trends that we see is people love the idea that you want to reduce the hardware footprint at the edges. People love the idea of reducing complexity, reducing MPLS costs. All that's great. The question is, okay, but how do I now steer the traffic from my edges to the nearest gateway? How do I even find out where the nearest SASE gateway is? This then becomes the magical combination of SD-WAN and SASE. So this makes it very simple for our customers to say, you know what, I'm going to have a ZTP on SD-WAN, and I'm going to specify my intent that go steer the traffic to the nearest SASE. The SD-WAN will automatically find out which is the nearest SASE vendor, SASE node, depending on the vendor that the customer goes to, and then integrate that automatically. So that makes it very close. The SD-WAN and SASE solution, it calls for a very, very good marriage, so to speak, between these two technologies.
I do love the automatic integration there. It was always super impressive to see from you guys early on. I think I watched a video and I watched it happen maybe in 8 minutes, I think is what it took. So it was super quick even back then.
Yep, absolutely.
So let's talk about, I think you guys have a unique selling point for the Palo, the SD-WAN, the CloudGenix SD-WAN, and Prisma access, right? So talk to me about what do you think that unique selling point, because that's the whole point of this, right? The point of it is our partners are watching this to figure out, okay, what does this Palo CloudGenix thing mean to me versus this provider that I know versus this provider that I know? So talk to me, help partners kind of understand what do you feel the unique selling point is?
So I'll break it down. I'll talk about the unique selling point of CloudGenix SD-WAN and Prisma Access SASE. So the idea behind CloudGenix SD-WAN is very similar or the unique selling point is very similar to what Palo Alto Networks as a company had in 2008, 2009, when Nir Zuk, our founder, had the idea of a next-gen firewall. It wasn't because there weren't many firewall vendors out there. I mean, he actually practically made the NetScreen, which got acquired at Juniper, and the firewalls, there were plenty of firewall vendors. His claim to fame and his biggest idea back then was, let's make a firewall that doesn't look at security from a networking point of view, where you have the 5-tuple match. Let's make a firewall where the construct of security is application ID, user ID. CloudGenix SD-WAN is very similar, where you have all the other SD-WAN still talking about networking and packets and routing protocols, and maybe at best they are application aware. CloudGenix is truly application defined. Everything about CloudGenix is on the application, whether it's the three-way handshake of an application, the performance of an application, the nature of the application. So the SD-WAN that we have is truly at a layer 7. It operates higher as far as SD-WAN goes. That is the big aha moments when our customers actually see this in action. They understand that this is not just a modified routing protocol or just a bunch of routing routers orchestrated by some orchestration plane. This is a completely different, a revolutionary way to do networking using application as the key core construct. But that was CloudGenix SD-WAN. That becomes our USP, application-defined SD-WAN. Prisma Access, on the other hand, a SASE solution, uh, if you think about network security and if you ask your customers, so how do you offer next gen or latest and greatest security? Nobody's going to say, you know what, I just have a proxy and that's it. They're going to say, well, I have a next gen firewall and I do advanced threat prevention. I do sandboxing, DLP, SaaS protection, public cloud protection. Uh, all of those features are now part of the Prisma Access SASE solution. So it's not just limited to web traffic. You can use Prisma Access. It's the true multi-mode CASB and a SASE solution where you can have complete protection for all traffic. And the protection also is not just limited to network security. You can have full advanced threat prevention, wildfire integration. You can then collect all the logs from all the devices in the cloud, on the on-prem, in the data lake. That also gives our customers advanced threat mitigation because they can now correlate logs so much better. So that becomes the power and the unique advantage that Prisma Access has, the power of the Palo Alto portfolio, where you don't have to have 44 different vendors.
So good thoughts on the value prop between Palo and CloudGenix, and just a thought for anybody that maybe has a legacy understanding of what Palo prem security meant. What is Prisma Access? Break down for me what Prisma means.
Yeah, so Prisma Access is Palo Alto's SASE solution, and really Prisma Access is two different solutions under the hood. There is the remote access VPN for remote users like you and I sitting at our homes right now or in a coffee shop. And then there is the site-to-site VPNs. And really, it's all about security, right? So the goal, the idea here is how do you secure a remote user? How do you secure those corporate offices? If you think about it, traditionally, the answer was use a network firewall, use SSL decrypt, use web filtering agent, sandbox. You had all these discrete, disparate vendor environments that you had to either at the data center, in which case you had to backhaul everything at the data center, or each and every branch required a next-gen firewall with wildfire subscription, with advanced URL filtering subscription. The idea of Prisma Access is simplifying all that. The idea is we're going to deliver the entire security as a service, no matter where the user is, no matter who the user is, whether it's a remote user or a branch. And so we are able to now steer that traffic to the nearest cloud gateway. Prisma Access is built on multiple public clouds across the world. And the point of presence of a public cloud far outweighs the a point of presence by a vendor per se. So the point of that is what Prisma Access really becomes is it becomes for our customers, it becomes their own firewall that magically gets spun up, that is elastic, that can grow up or it can shrink down. It can show up at the nearest point closest to the edge, yet not inside the edge. So there is no hardware footprint. There is no an increased operational nightmare. So now you have the ability to spin up the firewall closest to the user, give them full next-gen security, no matter how the user is, a remote access or a site-to-site VPN. That becomes the SASE or the Prisma Access solution.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thanks for that explanation. So let's talk about, we always like to get into the example segment of this. So I think you've got a good example. Certainly we'll anonymize the customer here, but talk to me about how SD-WAN and SASE kind of complement each other in this example that you've got.
Yeah, so look, I mean, I'll tell you what, many of our customers are the usual suspects of the big retailers, the big financial institutions. So for this example, I want to take a different example. I want to take an example of a global manufacturer. And this is a household name, mind you. We all know the name. And this manufacturer has manufacturing offices spread across the world. They have country offices, retail offices, sales offices throughout the world. The manufacturing locations are in the remotest part of that city or that place. In fact, we have certain places, the Ion boxes, the CloudGenix Ion boxes, had to be carried on a camel back in somewhere in West Africa, or had to be shipped from Australia to Papua New Guinea. This is the customer where shipping any hardware, any additional hardware, meant a lot of cost. Where making any changes, doing any RMAs, sending engineers to these locations was a nightmare. So what's the solution? The solution was one simple box, CloudGenix, SD-WAN deployed at all these remote locations. Security was not compromised because with the one-click integration that we have, this customer now has full security for all these remote locations, manufacturing locations and corporate locations. And we have a Prisma presence in that country or in that city even in many cases, where we are able to now spin up a next-gen firewall closest to this location and be in a position where you can now have full security. The hardware footprint is very low. And for this particular customer, we are deploying 120 locations a week. And that is not the golden standards. We have retailers that are deploying far more, 250 locations a week as well. But this is extremely difficult and impossible to think of for this particular customer when they think about conventional networking and conventional network security models. It is all possible with this SD-WAN and SASE, with CloudGenix SD-WAN and Prisma Access SASE, that they're able to enjoy this sort of deployment speeds.
Awesome. I love it. Great example. Let's talk about, we want to help partners figure out how to qualify these ops and match up the right vendors and get you the good at bats, the good quality opportunities. So, what do you think these partners should be looking for when they're picking an SD-WAN solution, helping the customers figure out that and the SASE portion of it? What would you advise there?
Yeah, so a couple of things there. There are obviously a few common things that our agent should be looking out for. The common thing for SD-WAN would be how many locations are we talking about? Now, look, from a technical standpoint, whether it's one location or 1,000 locations, obviously, technically, the solution is going to work. But from an agent standpoint, the number of location will directly impact to the deal size. And technically, what they should be looking for and I'll talk about CloudGenix SD-WAN is, I realize that this is a shift from conventional networking. It's a shift from thinking in terms of bits and bytes and destination IP and routing protocol. Now you're thinking in terms of application performance, not being app aware, because frankly, most of the SD-WAN vendors are app aware and they'll tell you this is Office 365 and this is Dropbox. But what do you do about it? What do you do when there is no SD-WAN on the other end of the site? It's a single-ended site, and you still are able to give superior QoS, you still are able to do superior performance. Those are the challenges when you have customers that are going on a cloud-first strategy. Their digital transformation journey includes building apps in the cloud, going to more SaaS applications. That is where traditional SD-WAN solution will fall short. That is where a CloudGenix SD-WAN, which is built for the applications, with the application in mind, will really excel. Now, on the Prisma Access part of it, look, if all your customer wants is a checkbox that, look, I want security check and check, then I suppose any SASE solution will do, even a web proxy will do. But if your customer is looking for true security, how do you prevent a simple thing like many of us will SSH tunnel or use a Tor client, or maybe many of us have enterprises that are still using file shares. These applications are not web or web traffic. This is beyond web traffic. How do you secure that? Do you want to have a separate solution for that? Or do you want a solution that is able to secure everything? So Prisma Access is a true multi-mode SASE solution where we can secure all traffic, complete zero trust model, even between branches. It's not just the user going to the internet. What if the user is going to another branch? What if there is an infection in one branch and you want to thwart and limit that to go and spread on the other branch? Prisma Access will help you there as well. Right, so those are the value adds. And I'll say one last thing on Prisma Access. Palo Alto has a name to reckon with when it comes to next-gen firewall, when it comes to network security. You get the same security posture delivered as a service, meaning you don't even have to worry about firmware upgrades. You don't have to worry about the latest and greatest signatures and command and control information. It's all latest and greatest updated for you because it's provided as a service. So that's why I say it's best of both the worlds. You get the best security, always updated, always managed and patched by the vendor, by Palo Alto Networks. So that becomes the advantage also of Prisma Access.
All right, great points. So let's talk about the future. This is my favorite part. We partners are working themselves into these deals over the next 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. Some of these enterprise things take time. So talk to me about, what can we expect to see out of Palo over the next 3 to 9 months, right? Are there feature integrations you want to talk about, product enhancements, just big focuses, right? So partners can start to line up opportunities that might be a great fit.
I'm going to I will answer your question there, Josh, but let me, I just thought of something. When I started my career and I had my first job, I was working back in India. And back in the day, and this was 21 years ago, back in the day, Nokia phones, the hard Nokia phones were a rage. I splurged at the time and I got this phone which had 32 megabytes and I could store like 7 MP3 songs on it. And then 2 years from there, a couple of years from there, when Apple released their iPod, I'm like, yeah, I got this. Many years after, when I got married, my wife gifted me an iPod and I'm like, oh, this is really a big difference from what I had. And the reason why I say that is, the point of the story is that oftentimes what I find is our prospects, our agents, our customers, they are so used to doing things a certain way. And they're like, yeah, this application thing, I know this. I have these protocols and they just do almost the same thing as the other guys. I don't need it. But when they actually see the difference, the CloudGenix difference and the Prisma Access difference, that's when they have their mind blown and the aha moment that, oh, why was I living without this, right? So now to your point, Josh, coming back to the question you asked, what's next? I talked about a few things already. We did announce the first next-gen SD-WAN solution, the integration that we have with SD-WAN, CloudGenix SD-WAN, and Prisma Access is going to get even better. Let me talk about one thing, which is not a feature, but it's an architecture, it's a vision that we have, which is Cloudplays. We believe we have a winning product, a winning solution in CloudGenix. So what makes it smarter is Cloudplays. Cloudplays is an app store on the CloudGenix. Now, if you think about it, you all have a smartphone in your pocket, right? Your smartphone is not smart only because you can make phone calls on it and it has great CPU and memory. Sure, it has all that. But what makes it smart is the app store, that you can install an app that's going to maybe track your fitness. You can do investing on it. You can do a gazillion things on it. Cloudblades is that vision where now you have the ability to install apps. The apps can be a Prisma Access app. The app can be a Microsoft Virtual WAN app, maybe an AWS app, maybe Equinix app, maybe even competition's Zscaler app. You have the ability to install the app. Once the app is installed, now you get a one-click integration, a solution-to-solution integration with ServiceNow and Splunk and all these other solutions very easily. So what I'm most excited about are not just these evolutionary features, and the features will come and our product will get better and better from a security standpoint and Prisma Access and SD-WAN standpoint. What I'm really excited about, where I applaud our architects and our visionaries, is making our solution so extensible so that we can have these loosely coupled architectures where you can snap in all these different solutions together. And if you don't like what you see, go unsnap it and snap in another vendor. And that becomes the power of Cloudblades with CloudGenix SD-WAN.
Awesome. Love it. Love the story too. Love that stuff. Remember playing Snake on the Nokia phones, right? That was it. How could it possibly get any better than that? But here we are, right? Good stuff.
That's right.
Okay, that brings us to the end. I appreciate it, man. All right, everybody. Yash Bajpai, Senior Manager over Sales Engineering at Palo. Yash, thanks for being on with us, man.
Thank you so much for having me, Josh. Take care.
Awesome. Okay, partners. That wraps us up. Season 2, Race to the Summit, Engineering Deep Dive. Today, get to dive in with Palo Alto. Till next time, thanks, everybody.